On this episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast, we'll be talking about affairs at home and abroad.
Could you read it one more time? Because I've been looking at the
I feel like we say that intro a lot anyway. We always say we talk about things at home and abroad.
Yeah, on this, we're going to be discussing issues from Trump to Taiwan.
ISIS to Syria. Whatever, I got this.
Let's just this episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast is dedicated to George H.W. Bush.
H.W.
Yeah.
On this episode of This episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast is dedicated to our beloved President, George H.W. Bush.
God bless you. Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Political Podcast. For those of you who have not been paying attention to the news, don't worry, HW is still alive. This just happens to be the 41st episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast.
Yeah, saying some tribute episode or something
yes,
happening. It's
crazy.
Just the 41st.
Yes, W.
H.
Yeah, sorry. Alright, but there's been a lot of recent developments politically. One of the most significant has been caused in the Pacific, a region which HW did participate in significantly during World War II. However, we're not dealing with Japan, we're dealing with Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Yes, the President of Taiwan and Donald Trump had a phone call this past week. It is still a little bit undetermined as to who called who. Trump claims he was called, other sources claim Trump called Taiwan. The point is, a phone call took place, and this is a very significant issue, due to the fact that since the 70s, the U.S. has not recognized Taiwan as a country, and rather as sort of a rebellious independent province of China. It's a little weird, because we still have carrier fleets to protect Taiwan from China, but we're like, oh yeah, they're totally the same.
Totally fine, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complicated issue because we haven't really administrations haven't probably contacted Taiwan in decades.
At least not in such a public way.
Right, well, that's a good point. And to acknowledge them and to answer the call is perhaps legitimizing their government, which is very significant, especially for Donald Trump, who has been quite the individual this past couple weeks.
Oh, for the past year, I'd say.
For the past,
he's time person
ever since 2015. But yes, the President of the United States of America, according to the cover.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. But I think this phone call doesn't mean much in terms of foreign policy. I think it was more of like a congratulations on becoming president, as many foreign leaders do. And usually, I'm pretty sure China does it every election, but no one ever answers, at least as far as we know.
Well, China, I know he had a conversation with Xi Jinping to announce that.
Taiwan, I mean.
Oh yeah, with Taiwan, yes.
Correct.
Yes. Sorry.
So I think this is just just an average call that you would get. So I think it's quite interesting, and we'll see what plays out in terms of foreign policy in the future. But it's certainly going to be an interesting year.
So yes, and I agree. And I will be brutally honest, I'm not sure if Trump is the most politically savvy and calculated this all out. No. But in the event that he did, or who was acting on the advice of others who did, I think it is a significant step. It shows, hopefully, a stronger, harsher approach towards China that I think we do need to see due to their actions with South China Sea. We need to show that we are willing to stand up to them. And I think we will see if this was the right route to take. I think, necessarily, it probably could have been handled better. Possibly more clandestinely, or at least could have been used. Oh yeah, English vocab words.
You're sad with the vocab.
Whew, spit and fire. But I think it could have been used to send a message more. But clearly Trump has not, as they have not, for the most part, tried to spin this into something positive, and is just offended from attacks that this threatens relations with China.
Correct. I think this is a very interesting start to his technically presidency, but he's not president. He becomes president in January.
It's president-electedness.
Pretty much. But he's already done. He's already done a lot.
Yes.
In terms of everything, in terms of all the business stuff he's done at home and the foreign policy stuff he's done abroad.
The carrier deal is very significant.
Correct. And there's another deal with the Japanese investor who said something about he's going to invest $50 billion in infrastructure and 50,000 jobs, which is amazing. We need that, especially in this time of our nation. So it's very good.
Yeah,
very good.
So, speaking of other things Donald Trump has done, cabinet appointments are still rolling in. We are still waiting for Secretary of State. Please let it be Mitt Romney, please.
Rudy Giuliani is out of the running, so according to the sources,
yes.
Which makes me very sad. But David Petraeus is still a viable option.
I've been meaning to say this on the show. What I am fairly certain happened was Evan McMullin running in Utah, going to win in Utah. If he had gotten Romney's endorsement, he would have won Utah, hands down.
Doesn't matter.
I think it is very likely that the Trump campaign offered Mitt Romney the Secretary of State position in exchange for not endorsing McMullin.
That's a good point.
I think that's very likely. So I think that's why Romney is still in the
They're
running.
going to dinners and they're doing all this fancy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly makes sense. I mean, Evan McMullin won the election, or won Utah, he still would have won Trump. just given by the huge victory in electoral margin.
But at the time, there was a real concern that Trump... Well, yeah, everybody thought Trump was going to lose, and losing any state just continued to push that idea.
But he had a lot of room for error at the end of the night. So
yeah, it was... I kind of wish McMullen won, because we still would have gotten the Trump presidency, but we could have shown the conservatives will stand up to the Donald. But we did
really
not.
think Mitt Romney would have endorsed Evan McMullen?
I think if there hadn't been a chance for Trump, I think that's a very likely chance. I mean, because Romney doesn't seem like he has much more of a future in politics.
No, he's quite done.
At least publicly. Right. So I think he could afford to alienate a lot of harder Republicans, and he would have definitely shown a shift, but it also would have continued to divide. We would have started to get the liberals, the Trumps, and the Republicans, or the conservatives.
Yeah, there's certainly an ideological split going down in the parties, as we've seen before, I would say.
Yes.
In the Republican Party, but that's off topic.
Yes. And so we do have to start wrapping up a little quick. We have to do a shorter episode this time. Correct. But some of his other picks have been controversial, as he's been appointing anti-EPA individuals at the EPA, it's
a variety of anti-whatever.
And become Obama. But no, he's a lot of the individuals who he has appointed are very much opposed to the areas in which they are
being
going
appointed
to. Yes.
Correct.
But I think that does decisively, it shows the change that we're going to see. This is going to be pretty much the most diametrically opposed presidency we can see of the Obama administration.
Quite, and it feels interesting to look through this time period. I'm gifted to have a Republican president in my recent memory.
What? We had Bush?
I don't remember Bush.
Oh, come on. I wrote a letter to him, and I'm still waiting for a response.
But I really hope I remember Trump for the good things and not the bad.
Okay. That's how everybody wants to remember a president, but that's a little hard.
I didn't remember Obama that way. That's controversial.
Oh yeah, come on. We can't lose any more viewers. We're already down to 7 an episode. And 7 of you who watch, God bless you. You are heroes.
I wonder who actually does watch this episode.
Please, tell us in the comment section below.
I'm actually really curious.
Yes.
I thought it was just me.
And to finally start to wrap things up, we do turn to the grander world at large. In Syria, rebels are facing the potential for massive defeat in Aleppo without aid. I think this is one of the other issues, is the U.S. is going to be, for at least the next couple of weeks, going to be playing a very indecisive role in Syria as Trump begins to continue to assume the office of presidency while Obama continues to not. So we don't have a decisive, here's what we're going to do policy, I think. Because I think it's shifting. I think that does benefit the Assad regime, who is making recent massive gains across the entire country, especially with aid from nations like Russia.
Now this is interesting because there's definitely been a bunch of positions and policies for Syria and Aleppo more specifically in dealing with the crisis, and I'm probably more of a non-interventionist in that matter, and you may disagree with me on that. You probably think we should get rid of him as soon as possible, which is fair.
I don't think I think he needs to go.
Correct.
Because he is a brutal dictator, he has gassed his own people.
But I think the government needs to stay.
That shouldn't be at the cost of allowing ISIS to take over. In terms of evils, ISIS is about as high as it goes. Bashar is really high up, just not quite ISIS.
Correct, and I think regime changes in the past have gone pretty south.
I think
this one, if we put time into it and we think about it and we know what we're doing, we don't just leave them screwed in a power vacuum. I think something could be made of it, but see, it's turning into a theocracy, to be quite honest with you, and it's pretty sad.
It is a quagmire within a quagmire, as Bernie Sanders wisely said. One of the few wise quotes that man has ever uttered. I just burned Bernie. I'm sorry, Bernie, if you're watching. We love you. Please subscribe.
Bernie supporters who apparently still exist.
Please.
Is Bernie still senator? Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of wraps up. We also, with Russia though, we do have a new investigation into Russian interference, a bipartisan investigation.
Bipartisan, it's important.
I think Russia did interfere in the election to some degree. I do not think that it was premeditated by the Trump campaign. I do not think it gave the election to Hillary.
No.
I simply think Russia, as it does in virtually all U.S. affairs, did mess around, and that mess around should be stopped.
Correct.
But I don't think it is some grand evil conspiracy where Trump and Putin are secretly working together.
I mean, honestly, they call it bipartisan, this investigation, to be honest. It's Democrats, don't get me wrong.
It is Democrats primarily.
But it's mostly never Trumpers coming in.
It is never for the primary.
Lindsey Graham, John McCain, those folks.
Anti-Trump and Democrats who kind of want to lessen the Trump victory. But they do bring up some good points, and make fun of Lindsey Graham all you want. I think he is a smart guy, and I think
he's fine. I just think he needs to get in line with everybody else.
I don't think it should get in line. I think we do need to see that kind of that difference, so we can see that it's not. We don't want to all
address the problem.
I think we want people who are going to criticize, but I also don't want to see people who are going to only criticize and not be willing to see past their differences to work for the future.
That's important. I think John McCain's getting that in his head that we need to. That we're all in this together. We need to.
We got to yes, and I think that shows a lot of respect considering the amount of horrible things that Trump said to John McCain that I completely disagree with, but that John McCain is still willing to work for a better America.
Perfect.
So on that note,
very well said.
Thank you, George H.W. Bush, for.
This has been an amazing episode, even though we didn't even mention you at all in the episode.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to say you're a great guy.
Pretty cool guy.
Yeah, you were awesome. You can still run in 2020, so please do if
you
Trump decides not to. That is
Bush
our
Carter ticket. That was a little weird.
Bush Carter 2020.
Possible.
You know, hindsight is 2020. We can be like, those were good presidents.
He'd be like 97.
Okay, Carter's. All right, we can address that in a future episode. But for now, I'm Clark Walburger.
I'm Jack Horvath.
See you next time.
Adios.
We got beanbags is what I'm sitting on.
I can
That's
move
the
those.
weird look.
Don't worry.
Flip.
Now I gotta make the transfer.
Make sure I shake myself on that lamp. Whoop.
What car do you drive? You drive your Subaru, right?